The more I've listened to audio, the more I have come to really appreciate the fact that audiobooks are a thing, because I went so much of my life without ever doing audiobooks at all, and now I have found so many that I quite enjoy. So let's talk about some really fantastic audiobooks slash narrators. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we're going to be talking about audiobooks and narrators, and ones that I quite enjoy. Now, I will note, I did a video on this previously where I mentioned such names as Jeff Hayes, Ray Porter, Steve West, Sean Barrett, Michael Kramer K. Redding, and Andrew D. Meredith, all of which are among some of my absolute favorite narrators, things that I've read. In fact, I originally made a list of 10, forgetting that I had done that video, and those were 6 out of the 10. So I went and was looking at some others and talking about some other ones that I've really enjoyed also. But if you want to hear more about them, I'll link that video, because those definitely deserve to be talked about. But we're going to be talking about different ones that I've not talked about, since these are in no particular order. This isn't like a top 10. This is just 10 that I want to talk about, audiobooks that I have quite enjoyed. I've listened to a lot more audiobooks now, and I found quite a few I enjoy, and I found some that I haven't as well, so I wanted to talk about some other great ones. So first off here, let's talk about The Protectors of Pratani by Mike Bowman, and this is narrated by James Mounier, I think is how you pronounce it, and he does a really fantastic job. I love the voices he does, and just his sound seems to fit this kind of setting so well, which is kind of the Celtic imagery and locations, and everything that he does I think just works really well. There's something about it. It just really does pull you in. I enjoyed these books in general. I started reading physically and then did some audio because I really liked the audio as well, and that's something that if I already really enjoy a book and then I'm listening to the audio and it's like so good and just adds even more, that's a good way to get me pulled in there with it. And so I've really enjoyed the audio for these so far. And next we have to talk about somebody who I'm kind of surprised wasn't in the last video, and I wonder if I hadn't listened to much of his stuff before this, but definitely have to mention Neil Gaiman, because I love to listen to this man talk. He narrates a lot of his own books. I grabbed this, which is a nonfiction, The View from the Cheap Seats, and I loved listening to this. It was really interesting. This is a collection of like speeches and articles and just other bits and pieces there. But mostly, I honestly think I would listen to Neil Gaiman talk about just about everything. I listened to him narrate this, as well as Coraline. Ocean at the End of the Lane, I've read physically multiple times and listened to him do it as well. I love the way he narrates. It fits his own, they're his own books, so it makes sense, but it fits the books really well, and I just really enjoy the way he does it. His voice, it's just, he's very calm in the way he narrates, and if you're looking for just kind of a chill, just sit back and relax and listen, fits really well, and so absolutely love his narration. The next one we're going to talk about, though, is probably the polar opposite, and that is MacLeod Andrews, who narrates Stephen Erickson's Willful Child trilogy, which is... the man is crazy, to say the least here. So this series is starts as like Star Trek parody, and then it is just goes to just kind of general parody. It's not always specifically Star Trek, but it's other kind of sci-fi tropes or other shows like that kind of thing. There's Star Wars jokes in there too. There's a lot of stuff. But because it's very absurd and it's a parody, there's a lot of crazy stuff, and there's a lot of crazy voices and noises, and MacLeod Andrews, the way he does these noises, these voices, there are some times where I'm just like, I'm laughing because the noises or the voices are so ridiculous. It fits so perfectly, and as far as somebody doing comedy, very few people I feel like have gone to do as good of a job with he did with these. I found I really do like audiobooks, but when I'm reading a comedy book, I really tend to like audio. I just think it works really well, especially if you have a really good narrator, which is the case here. It does a fantastic job. They were a blast to listen to. I was originally planning on physically reading until I realized the one I have is actually the third one, but I was able to listen to the audio of the first two on Scribd, and then I enjoyed it so much that I listened to audio for the third, even though I had the book physically, because it was just so good. So Really, really fun narrator, does a great job. I have not seen anything else from him, or I think James Mooney either, but I'll have to check out because I would definitely listen. All the people that I'm going to listen are people that I would most certainly, if I see an audiobooks narrated by them, it's going to make me more inclined to want to pick that up. Then next up, we will talk about another one which kind of fits with the comedy thing that I talked about. And this was pretty recent, but I had so much fun with this audiobook. And the narrator also did a great job. That's Over London, and this is by George Penny and Tony Johnson, narrated by Brendan McDonald. And it's just, once again, another example of when you're going for comedy, I feel like audio with a good narrator can really, really just amplify the experience. And this was a really fun book. This is one I plan on getting a physical copy to add to my collection. But the audio was just so fun, and the narrator does a great job. Once again, when doing comedy, you gotta have different voices. And my favorite one, it was far from like the best joke in there. It always made me laugh. But there's somebody who's giving the cry, and the voice the narrator does for the cry, and the cadence, everything, it got me every time. It was funny. But there were definitely better jokes, but that bit is just one thing that sticks out as just, it got me every time because the narrator did such a great job with the audio. So another one too, I definitely recommend that book, and I would check out more work that this narrator has done as well, because it's just a lot of fun. So we started out, it happened with all male narrators, but we have a couple to mix it up here as well, with the next one being the narrator for Butcher Baker Candlestick Taker, which is the Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries by Patricia Meredith. These ones I still plan to get physical copies of as well, but I tried out the audio for the first one. It is narrated by Rebecca Cook, and she does just a fantastic job. She fits the story really well, but also just her delivery and her character voices. There's a particular character she does who's kind of the foil in there as well, and just getting things wrong, making mistakes, and the voice she does for him is just perfect and wonderful, and she just does a fantastic job, and really, really just easy to listen to, really, really easy to get into with listening as well. I'm really excited to, I'll probably end up listening to more of this series because I liked the narrator so much, even though I'm planning on getting physical copies as well. So another one great, and the book itself is historical mystery, and I don't know what else Rebecca Cook has done. I think that she was somebody local to them, and so I imagine she's done other stuff, but I don't know. I don't know if she's done like a ton, but definitely another one that I'll be on the watch for, and excited to continue the series because I really liked her narration. And then we have the Ringsworn trilogy, which the first book's For the Killing of Kings by Howard Andrew Jones. This is another one where I was hybrid reading. I was reading it physically and also doing some audio. And I ended up doing a bit more audio than I had planned just because I really enjoyed the narration from Laurie Prince. She does a really fantastic job with the source material, with just the different voices getting across the emotion. And once again, there seems to be a theme here, because there are some different like creatures in there that she does a really unique voice for. And it's not so much like a silly voice either, but she just does really unique voices there. And for a series too that has a lot of male cast members as well for some of the main characters, she does a really great job with them as well. And that's always kind of the interesting thing, because some authors don't do the other gender super well. I feel like male authors are most often mad about that, where they'll sometimes do a really, really bad job, although it can vary with like the narrator. But she did a great job with everyone. And another time, this is the only series that I've heard her narrate for audio, but she just did a really good job and had me really engaged. And I really enjoyed the stories as it was, but like I said, whenever I'm hybrid reading and I find myself leaning more toward the audio, that's usually a really good sign for the narrator, and that's what happened here as well. And then we have some others to talk about. The rest of these I feel like are really well known, and they're ones that I've not listened to a lot, but ones I wanted to talk about because the little bit I've been exposed to them, I have for the most part enjoyed, though they're definitely people I feel like I would need to listen to more of before I can kind of really make more of a decision. So this is where we're getting into, besides the last one's very recent, but is already up there, but the next few are I guess you could call honorable mentions, but once again, these aren't in any order, so it doesn't really matter. But next up, we have Tim Gerard Reynolds. And Tim Gerard Reynolds, I have heard I've listened to one full audiobook, and I've tried some other stuff with him. The problem is, I've never listened to a book that I liked that he narrated, and so that's kind of the problem. Is I have not really gotten a chance to hear him narrate a story that I enjoy, and so he's one that I've liked his narration from what I've heard, but I'd like to hear him, or I'd like to listen to a book that I'm like, oh, I really really like this, and the narration is great. He's one though that the narration is good enough that I like the first book I listened to from him was one I knew I wouldn't like. I had to do it for a challenge, and so I knew that, but his narration was good, and I tried bits and pieces, but just not done a ton. So he's one I'm definitely looking out for more for. And then next up we have Colin Mace, which I've listened to 2 books that he has done. Well, this is actually the second one, but he does Destiny's Conflict for The Wars of Light and Shadow. This is book technically 9 or 10, depending on how you count it. And this is the only one that has audio right now, but I was really excited to listen because they're books that I feel like just lend themselves really, really well to audio. And he did a really, really great job. It was weird coming that late into a series and having some characters not sound necessarily like I thought they would by that point, because I had really strong opinions, but he does a really good job with emotion. And I say this specifically with emotion and personality because the other thing I listened to him was The Fury of Kings by R.S. Moule. I wasn't a huge fan of the book, but I probably would have DNF'd had I been reading it physically, but I listened to the whole thing because the narration was very strong. And he made the characters that in the text didn't seem to have a ton of personality. He made each of them feel unique. And so I think he just did a really fantastic job with there. And he does emotion very well in Wars of Light and Shadow as well. So another one too, I'm really interested to hear more of his stuff, but I thought he did a really, really great job in that. And so wanted to make sure that I talked about that as well. And then next up we have Travis Baldree, but not for the book that you probably think. Because I've listened to a couple, and I listened to Legends and Lattes, and that wasn't really for me, but I wasn't super impressed with the vocal performance there. And he guessed it in the new Dungeon Crawler Carl, and I also wasn't, it didn't sound very unique or different, and I actually kind of forgot he was there. The book I actually really liked him in, though, funnily enough, was Beware of Chicken, which was the first thing I heard him in, and is a really strange kind of cultivation, progression fantasy thing that I was not expecting to like, but I just found it delightful, and I think part of that was his tone and his delivery. I really, really enjoyed in that book. I don't know what for me was different about it, but I really enjoyed him in that. So he's one too I'm really curious to try some more of as well, and just to see what I think with him, because I just don't know at this point if he's one that is going to be a favorite or not, because I've been kind of hit or miss for him, but really, really enjoyed him in this one. And then finally, the final one I'm going to mention here, number 10 here, is the most recent. I am a very short way into the first audiobook that I've heard narrated by this, but that is Andy Serkis and The Hobbit. I have been meaning to reread The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings for a long time. And a ways back, I ended up getting the audiobooks for The Hobbit and for the trilogy that were narrated by Andy Serkis on a deal or something when they were on sale. And right now I'm participating in a watch-along for the Hobbit movies over on Patricia Meredith's channel with her and her husband Andrew Meredith, and with Andrew Swisserly Reads, and with Tori from Tori Talks as well. And so we've been doing this, and I'm just like, man, I really want to listen to The Hobbit. So I decided, let's do it, let's start it, and I am absolutely loving it so far. The Hobbit, it's just been so long since I've read it, so I'm enjoying the book, but Serkis is just doing a wonderful job with the voices, with the songs, which he puts his whole heart into to sing, and so I'm having a wonderful time, so definitely had to make sure that I mentioned Andy Serkis in this video as well. So there you have it. There are 10 great audiobooks / audiobook narrators. Let me know some of your favorites. If there are ones I've mentioned maybe that you haven't listened to, or other ones that I should definitely check out. I'm always on the lookout, or especially if you know any other books that these people have narrated, definitely let me know, because these are all people that I know I enjoy and would love to check out more from. So let me know in the comments. I always love to hear from you. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the link in the description, as always, for the Wizardly Enclave Discord if you want to chat books or audiobooks or really anything at all. It's a lot of fun, and we'd love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.